Meeting to order tonight. As a matter of public record and public service and governmental transparency, this meeting may be recorded, streamlined live, and/or accessed at a later date or time. Note that this may include video and audio, so when we have people come to the podium, please speak clearly so we can get a good record on that. All right, second item of business is the citizens' comments. This is a chance for citizens of Lewiston or the Valley to address the commission with comments or questions about our commission that is not related to this public hearing. So if you've got a complaint about something that we need to talk about, now is your time to do it. And we like to limit that to 3 minutes each. Is anyone in the audience want to come and?
I think you guys are, should be applauded for doing public service. It's not easy to do, and a lot of people aren't grateful for it,
So nothing really related?
Not related
No
at
complaints.
all. No complaints.
All right. Item number 3. We're going to approve the minutes of the January 11th meeting. And I've had a chance to look at it. I thought everything looked all right. How about the rest of the commission tonight?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the January 11th, and it says 22 on the agenda, but it should be 23, meeting minutes.
It was corrected.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
that's just my copy.
I didn't print it out.
All right, well, it's been moved.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Thanks, Commissioner. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes as written. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. On to item number 4, and that is our first public hearing of the night. We're going to deliberate and give the staff a direction regarding a conditional use permit. And the way this works is I'm going to open the public hearing. The city staff, Katie, is going to give a presentation. And then the applicant is welcome to come and give their presentation. And then we can have the testimony from the public. And we'll get a rebuttal back and forth. We'll close the public hearing and then we'll deliberate on the criteria or the standards that we have to go by in order to approve this. So without further ado, thanks, Katie. You are ready to go.
Chair,
Oh,
if you
sorry.
don't mind me just jumping in, since we do have 2 public hearings tonight, could you just clarify which public hearing this is, which application and the
Okay.
applicant's name?
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
You bet. This
Thank you.
is the public hearing regarding a conditional use permit, number 23-000001. And it's an application by Frank Nunning to install a billboard sign in North Lewiston.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, Commission. Tonight, we're looking at CUP 23, number 1. So this application is for a billboard, a 24 by 12 foot, so 288 square feet, double-sided digital billboard in the general commercial C4 zone, which is also located in our billboard overlay zone. As commented in your packet in the staff report, billboards are allowed by conditional use permit in that billboard overlay zone, and we'll go over the maps that show where this is located. All right, there we go. Okay, so subject property is located in North Lewiston. It is at 2231 2nd Avenue North. You can see from the photo, right there is outlined in black, marked as subject property. So this is a corner lot on East 22nd Street North and 2nd Avenue. It currently houses a storage building location and U-Haul rental store. So here's the same property with our zoning district layers put on. So the bright red is that C4 zone. The blue is the R4, which is high density residential. That is to the east of the subject property. And then you can see where it's kind of outlined because the line is hard to see on our mapping system. I've kind of just outlined the sections where that billboard overlay zone are, so you can see that traveling north and south along that East 22nd Street North. Welcome, Cindy.
Three threes.
All right, so some photos of the subject property. So I'm standing south across Second Avenue, looking at the subject property. So you can see they have a current pole sign there that does not have a sign in it. And you can see the little storage buildings that currently occupy the lot. This is looking south at that same corner. So there's a single-family residential unit directly across the street. And then you can just kind of see down the road. Further down that block are more single-family dwellings. The one further south on the corner is actually a dilapidated building that's boarded up, so it's not occupied. And then across the street from that is one of the baseball fields for Little League. Then looking down Second Avenue, so obviously single-family dwellings are over here on the south side of the road, storage container stuff over here on the north side of the road. And then this is the berm that separates East 22nd Street North from the highway. So from where Memorial Bridge turns into the highway and becomes 95 and US 12. And then this is at the far corner, so past where the property line divides this office building and the subject property. And so you can just see sidewalk, office building, this is Idaho Legal Aid. You can see the signage for El Rancho Motel, which is to the east and north of the subject property. And then as part of your packet and the application from our applicant, this is a site plan of where the proposed sign will go. So you can see in yellow where the support structure would be located on the far north corner of the lot, located completely outside of the right-of-way, so all on private property, which is important to note. You can see the existing structures that are located on the property currently. You can see the highway. And then again, a visual on the elevation of the drawing. So the proposed billboard is 40 feet tall. You can see 28 to bottom of the sign. Sign is 12 feet tall, 24 feet across. 40 feet is the maximum that is allowed for a billboard. So it does meet that standard. And then just for giggles, because this is also noted in your staff report, part of that billboard overlay zone does have limits on how close billboards are allowed to be next to each other. So you can see at the bottom of the screen, the proposed billboard is at that location with the big circle and the X. And then all the way around, so much farther than the 500 feet that is required, is the next closest billboard, which is over in front of Dan's Stove and Spa. And here is that bad boy. Super lovely. Okay. So let's go back and we'll just keep me up. I'm just going to use this one. The subject property is approximately 0.91 acres. It's currently a commercial property. Like I said, it contains a storage shed, sales office, and display lot. Surrounding properties are a mix of commercial and residential uses, with the properties to the north and south being commercially zoned and property to the east being residentially zoned. Property fronts both East 22nd Street North as shown, with Highway 12 adjacent to that, over that berm, as I showed you in the picture. So signage doesn't have a lot of space in the comprehensive plan. From your staff report, it does list that signage should be clear and easily understandable without distracting the driver. Signage could also include directions and information about regional features as well as community destinations. That's pretty much all comprehensive plan really states, and that comes from the North Lewiston Neighborhood 1 designation portion. Something for the commission to keep in mind, and you'll need to consider this when you do your deliberations, is that there is additional criteria to a regular CUP specific to the billboard overlay zone and in deciding whether or not this meets the criteria or not. So at the very end of your staff report, those are included. You'll see I did not do the worksheet like I normally do. I just added them to the very end. So those will fall under 6, 7, and 8. So in determining whether to grant or deny a conditional use permit for the billboard, Planning and Zoning Commission shall consider compliance with standards contained in Chapter 30 of this code. That code section is included in your staff report, and staff has evaluated, and that's discussed in the analysis. So from that chapter 30, billboards are allowed to be up to 378 square feet in size. The proposed billboard is 288, so it fits that criteria. Proposed billboard is 40 feet tall, which is the maximum height allowed, also meets that criteria. Proposed billboard is an electronic message center, which is allowed as long as it meets the illumination standards set forth in Chapter 30th of the sign code. As part of their sign permit, they need to show that they meet that, and that has to do with the candle foot distance and that kind of stuff. Proposed billboard is at least 150 feet from the intersection of East 22nd Street North and 3rd Avenue North as required by the code. It's, I don't think I included one that had numbers on it. Yes, I did. So the parcel that is to the north of it at 2230 3rd Avenue North, that parcel is actually 150 feet in length, and that's prior to getting to that center line of the street, which is what they measure from. So again, meets that criteria. And proposed billboard is located more than 500 feet from the next closest existing billboard, which, like I showed on the photo, is located in front of 2814 Frontage Road, so quite a distance away. I had to putt for a little while to get there. Properties to, let's see, nope, we already talked about that. Oh, yes, okay. So going back to the criteria, so number 7, whether the billboard will substantially block the view of any existing sign from the public right-of-way. So there are signs farther to the north, as you can see in the photo, this one. So you can see El Rancho Motel has a pole sign that's at the corner. So that one wouldn't be blocked. Like I said, it's more than 150 feet from where the proposed sign would go, so no major problems there. Idaho Legal Aid has a monument sign, but of course that's much lower, so it's not necessarily one you would see from the road anyways. The Sinclair Station across the street, which is even farther away from the proposed sign, also has a pole sign existing, and that one also farther enough away that it's not going to be blocked by any of the signage that is being proposed with this application. And then finally, as mentioned in your staff report, if the billboard is an illuminated sign, whether the billboard complies with industry practices for eliminating or reducing light up and light trespass. That's part of that illumination code that comes from Chapter 30 and is something that they have to provide that information as part of their permit. And that sums up my staff report unless there are questions from the commission. Yes, ma'am.
Since you've got it up there, do you happen to know the height and scale?
I don't know the size of that one. I do know that in standard pole sign, they can be up to 200 square feet, which is a 20 by 10. I might have in the staff report what the limit is on the height, because I don't remember it off the top of my head.
It says 40 feet.
Is that for standard, or that in the
Well,
billboard?
I mean, we're on page 9, under 3013.
Yes, freestanding size, you are correct.
So that, are you?
No, I was thinking scale-wise, whether it would be similar to in height and scale.
So I don't, so that sign is quite old, so I don't have the information for it specifically. So basically I can tell you it's under 200 square feet for sign size, and it's under 40 feet tall.
And so this one's going 288 and at 40. Okay.
Yes, because this one will be an actual billboard. So standard sign code will let them go up to that 200 square feet size.
Thank you.
Nice job again.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I
sir.
have some questions. So this isn't considered a freestanding sign?
No, this is specifically considered a billboard.
Okay, so
Which
the
is
200.
why they're here. If it fell under the freestanding sign portion of code, they would not have to come in front of this body.
Okay, well then, that takes care of a lot of my questions there.
Yeah, so billboards are only allowed in certain areas of town that have that overlay zone. So there's only certain portions along certain sorts of roads where they are allowed. They are allowed to be bigger than that 200, so that's when you see them happen. The billboard overlay zone has only existed since 17, and I think this might be the first one that's been installed since that code rewrite occurred. All other signs have been 200 square feet or under. Because there are a couple of really large ones, but those fall under that 200, so they're just a regular freestanding sign.
The one there at 11th and
21st Street, yep, that one's under, I think that one might be right at 200.
Yeah, but I think that was after 17,
Yes, it was,
so, I mean,
but that's not a billboard.
that's not a billboard?
That's a freestanding sign.
But it's,
I
okay,
know it's really big, but, so
But
that,
does
so
it-
for,
doesn't it-
so
doesn't
for
it
comparison's
change?
sake, that size is the maximum that's allowed. And so a billboard's actually larger than that, which is why they're only allowed in certain areas and why they're required to go through this conditional use permit process.
so is it appropriate for me to ask, what's the definition of a billboard and a sign? I mean, what's the difference, because that just confused me, the one,
And it's in,
the one 21st and 11th, I mean, I thought was a billboard like this, I mean, because it digitally changes and all that stuff. And I understand
it's
the
an
size.
electronic message center, which is just a thing.
Okay, I just wanna make sure,
I have it in here.
sorry to cause all the,
No, you are totally fine. I just have to find
I'm okay.
where the definition is.
I have it up.
Do you have it?
So a billboard means, in accordance with Lewiston City Code, section 30-5, a billboard means an elevated outdoor sign on which the owner may use, lease, or rent space for the purpose of conveying a commercial or non-commercial message. Billboard shall not exceed 378 square feet, nor be more than 40 feet in height. A billboard may also be an electronic message center. And a sign means a name, identification, description, display, or illustration that is affixed to or painted or represented directly or indirectly upon a building, object, or other surface, or on the inside of a window and visible from the exterior of a building, which directs attention to or is designed or intended to direct attention to the sign face or to an object, product, place, activity, person, institution, organization, or business. Signs located completely within an enclosed building and not exposed to view from a street shall not be considered a sign. Any flag adopted by federal, state, or local governmental entities shall not be considered a sign. A display of business hours, open or closed, shall not be considered a sign. A sign shall not include wall art displays.
Clear as mud.
And Mr. Chairman, Katie,
And that was on page 8 of your staff report.
I wonder if it'd be helpful to go back to that picture of that billboard that you have, that Lamar billboard.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dance,
Yeah.
And
that's the
I'm
max.
just wondering how,
So I mean, you can kind of see in the comparison, because the Dan Stove and Spa, that's a freestanding sign. And so that is probably under 200 square feet, and then the Lamar one is
That's the max.
a billboard, which is probably at the 378.
It's a bigger one.
that'd be good.
Would it be fair to say that a billboard is an advertisement and it changes, the content changes, or no? Is-
Yes.
So for rent, content can change, whereas with a sign, it's specific.
That's a bigger
That's
billboard.
bigger.
That's a 10 by 30. That one there.
Just tore down.
You'll have an
You
opportunity
guys
to
don't
read.
talk,
Yeah, I
yeah,
thought-
come up.
You can't just
Oh, I'm
check.
sorry.
She was an order in the court here.
I started to think.
Anybody else questions for Katie? Thanks, Katie. And now we'll take the applicant's testimony. Is the applicant here tonight?
Yes.
If you'd like to step up.
You want me to leave that up for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And can I scroll back to, there's one of yours?
Which one do you want me to leave it up
Go
for?
ahead and let's show that billboard you just had.
At the Lamar one?
Yeah.
That one?
Hi guys, Frank Newting,
You need to state your name and your address, please.
6346 Old Ranch Road, Pocatello. This is a Lamar board. This is 10 by 30. So it's not as wide, but longer. So what we're proposing is a 12 by 24, which is a much more standard industry size board. In addition, previously, can I scroll back to that again? Is that,
Yeah, so
To
the
the-
arrows will get you.
oh, the arrows will get me there?
Yeah. we'll go back and forth to that.
Okay. So back here was a Lamar board that we tore down, which was a 14 by 48, which was about almost 600 square feet. So we've eliminated that one. It was an old board, and it wasn't a unipole or a monopole. It had 4 legs. And so basically what we're doing is just improving the one that was on the property and just moving it up from where it was. It was over, was it here, Paxton?
Just below the address.
Right here?
Where the white line would be.
Right here? Okay, it was here, and we're just moving it a little bit closer to the property line. So, anyway, and it's, obviously they're programmable, and so they're utilized not just for advertising, just to the general public, but they're also, you're capable of Amber Alerts, city events, those kind of things. I mean, we're not stuck on, what we generally do is we try to sell it double-sided, and then they rotate side to side. So if the city has something going on or anything, we can add whatever messaging they want, or if it's, fair days, or, we'd like to be a great community partner as well. So a lot of times is that in these bigger companies, we're just a small company, is that you can't get a hold of anybody. So fortunately, we have an agreement with Paxton, who is the Nissan dealer here, and somebody that lives here, to work to try and enhance things that are going on in the community. So that's kind of the program for us. I mean, there's not a lot of detail that has to be brought up, I don't think.
Another thing that people are gonna find out shortly.
Can we do this together or not? Okay, I'll let him do it. But he's in the process of working to put together a dealership on that property. He owns all that right there, so. Anyway, if you guys have questions for me, happy to answer anything.
You mentioned that you just recently took down a larger, more stodgy one.
Yes, ma'am.
When did that come down?
In August,
So last summer, okay.
so, yeah, in August of 2022,
Okay, thank you.
so. Anybody else?
Thank you. Now you can
Thank
step
you.
up.
Okay. Paxton?
State your name and address, please.
Paxton, last name's Lickness, Likness, 239 Preston Drive in Lewiston. So, wait, all these existing, Errol, right? Okay, so that signage is what's currently existing now, but if we go to, where are we at? That is basically similar to what we just tore down, except the ones we tore down had dual legs with the identical frameage of it. It was the one there on the right-hand side that's been there for probably, well, the lease was signed in 1970 something. Whoop. So, there, all of those, the next proposal, those houses, they're gonna be taken out, flattened out. They're gonna be, that would be from there all the way down to, whoop, wrong way. That white, commercial building will be taken out. That white house that's been boarded up, we boarded it up because it's not healthy. It'll go all the way down to the fairgrounds, back to, those will be flattened also. Everything in the red, subject property, plus the subject, all the way down to the block, to the fairgrounds and up, will be flattened in blacktop for a dealership. So the signage itself will not obstruct anything in our way. It'll actually open it up, it'll open that whole North Lewiston, better visibility, and make it, put it bluntly, more attractive.
Sounds great.
So those residential houses that are around it will be flattened in that subject properties.
Anybody have any questions for Kathy?
So I'm just curious, what kind of dealership are you putting in?
Nissan.
A Nissan, okay. And my other question on the sign, is it double-sided?
Yes,
Okay, that was this one.
both sides.
Come on up.
I'm Glenn Anderson. My address is 2040 Valley View Drive in Clarkston. I'm the owner of Sign Crafters, so we've been working with Frank on just the initial process of getting it set up. We set these boards up all the time. So we did the one that you're talking about at We Love Transmissions, the 10 by 20 there. We just recently did the one on Snake River Avenue for Gander Digital also. It's just the same size. This is kind of, I think for Frank, this is the first step in the process. Like Katie said, we have a sign permit application submitted as well. It has some needs that we need to address, but we want to make sure that we can get over the CUP hurdle first, just to make sure it's, accepted by the city. And the difference is kind of in a nutshell to your question, the difference between this kind of sign and a sign just for a business is the outdoor advertising element that goes along with it. The state of Idaho also requires us to get an or Frank will have to get an outdoor advertiser's permit for this sign. So that's another step that we'll need to do. ITD needs to sign off as well, just because of the visibility next to Highway 12. I've already been working with Mike Ehlers at ITD, and he hasn't found any issues. I think because there was a previous billboard right across the street, he hasn't found anything in the deeds that would limit or restrict anything for future development. But if anybody has any questions related to sign structure, how it operates, happy to answer it, though. I guess these guys did a good enough job, I guess.
Getting by Katie is the first step, so.
All right, thank you.
All right, Katie, did you want to?
Nope, I'm just gonna shut my show down.
And then Dawn, was there any testimony from the public tonight? We had one in our box from, there was one letter. Do we need to read that into the?
No, there's a letter that was included in the
Okay,
packet, and
what's
so
that?
it's already been made part of the record.
I didn't get nothing.
No, it was part of the application that was
Within the
submitted, so yes, it's already in, you don't have to worry.
Okay, and then a reminder, once we close the public hearing, we cannot take any more testimony. All right, we're gonna close the,
Chair, just before
I'm
you
sorry.
do, I would just double check that the applicant doesn't have any rebuttal after those comments.
are you good to go?
I don't think I have any rebuttal. Thank you, though.
Sounds great, thank you. All right, thanks, Kayla. All right, we're gonna close the public hearing and we'll deliberate. We've got 8 points of contention tonight to take a look at, and that includes the extra 3 from chapter 30 on the code. So, without further ado, let's take a look at that number 1. The proposed use will or will not result in conditions that tend to generate nuisances such as noise and glare. I'm gonna say it does not, just because if it follows all the code requirements, we should be,
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I was just going to, I would say glare would be the only thing, and they're addressing that with all the appropriate agencies, it sounds like. So if anything would be, and I don't know that that would be a problem.
so maybe you're saying will, and then until we can mitigate the glare issue?
Well, it sounds like that they're working with the appropriate agencies about the glare on that. I mean, that's what I heard.
Right, they're gonna have to go through a whole nother permit process.
Right, exactly.
So can we agree that this will not result in conditions?
I would agree.
With that? Number 2, the proposed use, I'm gonna say, is not a public necessity,
I agree.
but is justified by the applicant. Signs are great for business. I like that a lot, but not necessarily a public necessity, but I think we can work with it. How do you folks agree?
Agree.
I would like to point out that he made it very clear that they want to work with the community for community announcements, which would be ideal, right at that location. You can't get into Lewiston without seeing it, so, or out.
Right, Kevin, agrees on that? Yeah. All right, number 3, the character of the proposed use, if developed according to the plan, I believe will be in harmony with the area which is located, it's gonna look beautiful. I like all the signs.
It's an improvement,
Yeah, I
way,
agree.
way improvement over what she showed us
The
before.
characterization of having removed the old sign and this being a more up-to-date sign and the plans for the new dealership, I mean, it'll be in harmony.
Issue number 4, the proposed site, I believe it will not endanger the public or the public safety. People might have different ideas on that, maybe it's distracting.
Well, as long as it complies with because there are rules as far as how fast it rotates the message and like how often it does and things like that, as long as it stays in there, it wouldn't be a safety issue.
We love those reasons why.
I'm gonna wager that's part of the ITD approval process too,
Yes,
so.
Sounds great. Now we're gonna slip into the proposed use, I believe, will be in substantial conformance with the comprehensive plan.
It's in the overlay zone.
Well, then also, at the beginning of our comprehensive plan, summary here, it says, there's a specific, part that speaks to signage and it fits that, so.
All right, number 6, in determining whether to grant or deny the conditional use permit for the billboard, the planning commission must consider the compliance with the standards. I think Katie has helped us with that. Does everyone feel like we're gonna be in compliance?
Yes,
I think
for the billboard, for sure.
Very good. Number 7, whether the billboard would substantially block the view of any existing sign. I think once again, Katie has done
Great job.
everything in her ability to make sure that's taken care of, and the applicant has agreed to all those stipulations, so I don't have any trouble with it. Anybody else?
No, I agree.
All right, the last and final issue, if the billboard is illuminated, which I do believe it is, whether the billboard complies with the industry's practices of eliminating and reducing uplighting and light trespass.
And I believe that will be addressed with the RDT,
Yeah.
with their permits.
In addition, that with the plans to remove a good percentage of those residential structures, and then the future plans for a car dealerships are lit all the time.
Oh, yes.
So I don't think that it's really gonna be closely impacting anybody or any grievous against the existing structures of the new sneaker station and I think it's fine. I think it's gonna be.
Nothing else that might encourage more businesses
Agree.
to. All right, I think we're all in agreement then? We've agreed to accept that? All right. So, without any further ado, I would accept a motion to direct the staff to get this thing going.
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Sounds great. It's been moved.
I'll
Kevin?
second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Have we,
Oh, I was just gonna ask for clarification. Drafting the reason statement, I'm assuming approving.
definitely.
Okay, thanks.
So, the motion to direct the staff to draft a reason statement, which would be approving the conditional use permit 23-0000-001. I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The motion carries. All right, item 5 on the agenda, we have another public hearing tonight. And this one is a zone change. Zoning amendment, ZA. And it's 04-22 to rewrite the planned unit development zone, which we're fairly familiar with. And the proposal to rewrite this section Lewiston Code 37 through 94. Once again, I'll open the public hearing. We'll have a staff presentation, testimony from the public, close the public hearing, and then we'll deliberate on the questions that determine whether the zone amendment would be approved or not. So I'm gonna open the meeting. Katie's ready to go.
I'm ready to go. So you only get a verbal on this verbal presentation, no pretty pictures this time. So we've gone over this a couple of times. So in your packets, there is the existing planned unit development code that currently stands and is currently utilized when developments want to go through the planned unit development process rather than a traditional rezone. And then also in your packets is ordinance 4872, which is our rewrite of that planned unit development. We chose to do a full rewrite because it got really messy after we tried to eliminate all the things that don't make sense anymore. So the purpose behind doing a rewrite of this code is staff and developers have found over time that the way that the code was originally written, and it was written like back in 2000, so it's a little bit on the old side, contains a lot of steps that aren't taken anymore and contains terminology for different kinds of plans that aren't utilized anymore based on changes to our subdivision code and other changes that have happened, whether those be in state statute or other sections of city code. So some of the things just don't make sense anymore. So we wanted to eliminate those things that don't make sense and make the code kind of run the way that we actually do this process and try to match it up more succinctly with our subdivision code, because in 99% of planned unit development, you're also going to have a subdivision. So getting those two sections of code to work together better was a major goal, because that way it's easier for developers to utilize this. It's easier for staff to get the process to go through. It makes more sense for when we have to do amendments to it, makes more sense for when we get to that subdivision portion of it, makes more sense when we get to the reviewing of the building permits to build houses or buildings or whatever. So in your packet, like I said, so existing code's in there. I've presented it, I think, 2 other times now. So hopefully there aren't too many questions on that part, but if there are, we can go through them. And then you have your ordinance. So we tried to clear up when you would use a planned unit development, tried to make it more clear that you would do this not to circumvent like a contract zone, which you guys have seen a couple of times where you use a standard zone, but you have some restrictions on it. We've done a couple of those during this board's tenure. And those are usually designed because a specific property abuts another property where maybe some of the uses for the rezone aren't appropriate in an area. So most of the time we see things like that when we're looking at doing a commercial rezone and it's abutting a residential property. So the idea behind planned unit developments are to allow for a mix of either uses or building types. A lot of times we see them in residential applications where a subdivision is more commonly known, allows for a mix of building types. So might allow for smaller lot sizes than what is traditionally allowed in a standard zone, might allow for a mix of single-family, duplex, multifamily residential all in the same area, which isn't always allowed in all of our standard zones, might allow for minor commercial sorts of things, like convenience, commercial uses in a neighborhood, so that you have a mix of things. Planned unit developments are usually utilized by developers when they want to do more than what's allowed in one single zone. And that's where we usually see them come through, is because they want to do A and B and C and D and E, and you can only do like A, B, and C in a standard zone. So that's where we usually see them. A lot of our larger single-family dwelling subdivisions are planned unit developments because they were looking for flexibility in lot sizes, maybe flexibility in roads, whether it be a road width or a requirement not to have sidewalk on both sides, or there's a number of factors, because a planned unit development is, a contracted situation where the city and a developer kind of come to agreement and there's some give and take. So you'll see in the ordinance, so like on page 2, it says the purpose to allow a planned and coordinated mix of land uses and housing types. to encourage a more creative and efficient utilization of land, to provide the means for greater creativity and flexibility in design and development, to encourage overall planning, designing, and development of larger tracts of land, and to provide a better means of cooperation between the city and private developers, and to allow for exceptions to standards in the zoning and subdivision codes without sacrificing overall benefit to a neighborhood or to the community, and to promote a more cohesive and coordinated development. So all those things I just said fall under that purpose section, right? So then regulation, a lot of these have stayed kind of the same, and then some of them have been adjusted. So we're still looking at sections of land that would be at least 5 acres, unless they have a couple other qualifying factors, like unusual physical characteristics of the land, or if they're right next to another planned unit development. We do have a couple really small planned unit developments in the city that were allowed because they utilized being adjacent to another planned unit development. And so we see that happen once in a while. So there's discussion farther down on page 3 about private roadways. About if a specific code is not specifically exempted in a planned unit development, that it will follow standard city codes, which is something that a lot of the PUDs do anyways, but we wanted to just make sure that that was outlined, rather than having people having to jump back and forth in code sections. It just says specifically, these are the things. And then it gives an administrative procedure. Like I said, the existing procedure that's in there is a little heavy. And there's lots of items in there that we don't necessarily do. And so we wanted to eliminate those and really narrow it down to what exactly do we do? What exactly gets handed in? How does that work with the subdivision code? I spent a lot of time hanging out with Public Works and making sure that the items that were called for in the planned unit development matched how the subdivision code works when they go through the subdivision portion of that development. So you'll see there's lots of references back and forth. So we still have a development master plan, and it includes different items that have to be turned in as part of it: site plan, road plans, common open spaces if that's going to be included, landscaping, the infrastructure, so if water or sewer is going to be public or private, storm sewer, any outdoor lighting, anything you might see in a standard neighborhood. All of those items are kind of covered in here. There's some talk about if you have specific situations where topography is a limiting factor, how we're going to handle that. So that's called out. There's information regarding a traffic generation statement. You see that a lot with the subdivision code because they're looking at how many trips per day is a new development going to drive. And then it has kind of the simplified system for how we will deal with amendments, which wasn't called out really specifically before. So that's really helpful for staff because we had to reinvent the wheel every time, and that's not fun. So that makes it much more understandable for both the developer and city staff to know what our process is if we're just doing a amendment that's not, you know, an increase in density or something really large that needs to have a public hearing and come in front of this body to make sure that it still fits within the plan. And then finally, like I said, at that last little section is in regards to contract zoning agreements, just kind of showing how they're different, and that a PUD is not meant to replace a contract zoning agreement because those are really specific property agreements. And like I said, you guys have gotten to see a couple of those because it's been busy. So that is kind of the highlights of everything in there. So if you guys have specific questions about what's covered in the ordinance or specific questions about what the difference is, yeah, we can go through those.
Sure. So, thank you, Katie. On page 2, number 4, it just looks like some housekeeping when it says to provide means for greater creativity and flexibility, and it did say in environmental design, or just that environmental part is being cut. I assume that's just
Oh, right there. Sorry, I was looking at section 4.
that really doesn't that, I don't believe that's referring to actually like the environment per se, as
No.
opposed to, it's just more like the area.
Yes.
Okay, so, all right. So it's not, yeah, okay. And I'm sure that kind of stuff is covered in other areas of.
Yes, I mean, the idea is to take out words that are confusing, such as that,
Okay.
and to make everything match, and
Like,
yes.
gotcha.
Yeah, because right now, if you read through how the existing code is, like, it's heavy, like, there's a lot of stuff in there, and it's not how the process actually works. And so rather than continue on with a process that is kind of overburdensome, we're looking to make sure that we can really show a developer, here's your steps very clearly, how we're gonna get you to where you need to be.
Okay, no, that's cool. That's what I thought. I just needed clarification. Thank you.
Great job. Anybody else have a question for Katie?
Thank you.
And no comments from the public on this one? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing and deliberate on the standards. Unfortunately, I've misplaced my standard sheet, so can someone help me on the?
I don't
that
know
would
what
be. I know, they're not the same as the,
So,
It's just the,
yeah, there actually aren't any specific standards, and it's just, you can discuss the ordinance, and then ultimately it's just a recommendation on whether to, approve it and send it to council with that recommendation.
that's why I didn't find anything.
You're not missing it.
Okay. Well, I was able to read through everything, and I think Katie is right. It does feel a little bit more condensed now when everything that you eliminated, it was like restated at the next couple spots, so good job, Katie. I don't know how you do it, but you did it. Anyone else have any questions, comments? All right.
Just to say that I agree with you.
Like that. Well, seeing that we don't have much more to say, I would certainly look for a motion to approve this, ZA 04-22.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the ZA 0422 and with a recommendation for approval to the city council.
The chair, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve this ordinance as set forth, or this agreement set forth in ordinance number 4872. All those in favor of approving this signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, Katie. All right, let's see, is it gotta be item 6 somewhere? Item 6, staff commission communications and a query of commissioners for the February 8th meeting.
so we do have a public hearing scheduled for the February 8th meeting. So I need to know who is gonna be here, who's not.
I will be absent.
What day is that? I'm sorry.
February 8th,
Oh, okay. I'll be here.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be absent.
absent.
I'll be here and on time.
You're here? One?
It's not a quorum, is it?
I don't know. I think 3 is a quorum.
Yes.
We do have a interview for a new commissioner on Friday, so hopefully that goes well, and we can get them appointed before the next meeting, because that would be a bonus.
It would be.
Right, we still do have one commission seat open, so if you know anybody who might be interested in serving, please reach out to them and have them contact the clerk's office.
Doing my best.
I posted
Gabe?
on the Concerned Citizens
Yeah,
one because
and I-
there's a
and I-
lot of opinions on
And
there.
I backed it up too,
Yes,
yep.
you did.
Step up, this is their chance.
Yeah, right.
Get your butts in a And so then the other thing that we wanted to talk to you guys about, so the city as a whole with their boards and commissions is wanting to move away from issuing paper packets and do everything online. So we wanted to make sure everybody was okay with that. If you want a paper packet, you can still request it from us and Dawn would provide that to you. But overall, rather than email it to you and physically mail it to you, it would just be mailed or emailed to you. And then we are also working with our IT department to have tablets available so that just like legal and Dawn doing the minutes, you would be able to access your packet information on the tablet during the meeting.
We're not staring at that might work.
So you're not staring at your phones, and so if you did need to pull up something
I've done
from
once
a
or
staff
twice.
report or photos that were provided or, you know, the agenda that has language from legal, you would be able to do so. So we are working on that. Don't am I forgetting anything? Oh, the email thing. And then the last thing is that on your email, we are changing the type of email you have. It doesn't really change anything for you guys, but it will limit the amount of gigabyte memory that you have. So you'll just need to make sure that you're being cognizant about deleting the email files that we send you because they are large. You still will have access to the Google Drive that contains all of those. So if you deleted something and you needed to go look at it again, that is still available in the drive that you guys have access to that has all of our agendas, minutes, and the packets. But you will just want to kind of keep on top of that because it will kick back a packet to us if you don't have the memory available, if you haven't deleted like previous
I
packets.
haven't,
And I have not, so
Yeah,
I've never deleted them.
Yeah,
I don't include like all the folders,
In a year.
cause I've got, I mean, I think I've got stuff from, I know I have stuff from council. And that's all been moved to like specific folders and stuff like that. I mean, I thought I was supposed to hold on to not get rid of that.
It's still saved in the cloud.
So
So,
I can just delete everything?
you might consider, touching base with IT because, they might be able to help clear up some of that space if you need it.
I just,
Yeah.
save it.
It's okay if you delete an email. It's not gone. It's just gone
Yeah,
from your
nothing's
inbox.
Done.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing's gone.
It's not gone.
Yeah, it's on a, it's on a
It's on the
server,
city,
you just have
yeah.
you just have lost access to it, but it's stored in the city server, yeah, yeah.
So I think that's all.
I know how it works, I just,
Time frame on
I
that?
just wanna say, I'm willing to give it a try
I
for a
asked this
couple.
morning and I don't know
hard
that I
copies.
got an answer when
I
they're
did.
gonna switch.
We did not get an answer, but
What's that?
as soon as possible.
For the computers.
Oh, to empty out your email, because they'll probably be switching you to a different account.
Kevin's probably the only one that really has a problem.
I'm always the problem.
yeah, I mean, I probably only have a year's worth of stuff.
Your computer has lots of memories.
I just didn't know I needed to
We're,
delete
so
it
we're
for
not
some
getting,
reason.
like, iPads, we're gonna have the tablets like available when we get here.
Yep, they'll be here.
They're like
Okay.
here, like,
Yes.
Our
We
name
won't
tag.
take them home, they will be here.
They will be,
They'll be city property.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I may need the
Right.
hard copy. I will try to do it on my soft stuff. or
And
on my-
we may get here early and bring up the packet for you. And if you ever need any training or to work through it, I'd be happy to sit with anybody.
I might need that.
probably gonna be training.
Okay.
Well, I could be really technical and be like, well, are
We're
they,
gonna work through
are they
all of
Kindles,
the
are they
problems.
notebooks, are they fires? Fires, are they iPads?
Mine's just a little telephone and I don't get it on my
I can bring
iPad,
either
so
or, a laptop,
I could get it on my laptop.
iPad, I've got all the crap.
So it'll be about the same as doing it on your laptop.
Okay,
It'll just be on
okay.
Yeah, but I like to go through it before.
And I think the only other thing is, I do already have a public hearing scheduled for the second meeting in February, and that one's on February 22nd, so.
Get back in the
Things are gonna start.
speed of things.
Like that.
Yeah.
So that's all the staff communications?
That's all I got.
All right. And we know who's coming next meeting?
Yep, wrote everybody down.
All right, item number 7.
I so move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thanks,
I
Kathy.
will
was gonna-
second Kathy's motion to adjourn.
It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Good
Thank
job.
you, everyone.
Good job, Mr.